Hello, and welcome to the Capital Gains Show. My name is Aaron, and in this show, I defend capitalism and criticize socialism. Today, I'm doing a movie review. I want to review the movie called Mr. Jones. It was released in 2019. It was directed by Agnieszka Holland, who's a foreign director. It stars James Norton, Vanessa Kirby, and Peter Sarsgaard. It takes place in 1933 during the Holodomor, when the Soviet Union, under the direction of Joseph Stalin, intentionally starved pretty much everyone in Ukraine. And I found it on Hulu. You can find it on various streaming and content, sources. Shouldn't be too hard for you to get your hands on. Now, let me show you the poster for Mr. Jones. Check this out. I thought this was really clever. You see Stalin there? You see something else, right? There's a pig. There's this silhouette pig in the Stalin's face there. Now, there's a reason they do that, because George Orwell makes an appearance in this film where he's writing some scenes from Animal Farm, and the pigs in the book Animal Farm have a very prominent role. They represent the Bolsheviks and so on. So the pig kind of thing plays into the movie just a little bit. Anyway, the movie focuses mainly on two people. It focuses on Walter Duranty and Gareth Jones and the battle between them over journalistic integrity and getting the truth out about the genocide to the rest of the world. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with Walter Duranty, he was a Soviet apologist who worked for the New York Times and was stationed in Moscow for over a decade during the 1930s. He won a Pulitzer Prize for his reporting on the Soviet Union. Later on, years later, it was, kind of became common knowledge that Walter whitewashed a lot of the stuff that was going on in the Soviet Union and was basically just doing, apologetics for the Soviet Union and hiding a lot of the atrocities committed by the communist regime over there, hiding a lot of the atrocities from the rest of the world to curry, favor with the Soviets, and because he was a believer in socialism and that kind of thing. Now, Gareth Jones was a less well-known reporter at the time, and he wasn't buying into the narrative that Walter Duranty and the other Soviet apologists were selling, and he wanted to find out where the lie was, where the cracks in the narrative were, and kind of peel that open. And he did. He succeeded, although he got kind of ridiculed, and a lot of people didn't believe him at first, but he did manage to break the truth open. The film was really well directed. The actors, all of them, did a great job. The scenes, were really well portrayed. I was captured by the film. I was sucked in and engrossed in the story, and I found it very captivating. I liked the pacing. It's kind of like a slow thriller. A lot of psychological things going on at play, but there are also some really good scenes when Gareth Jones gets into the Ukraine and kind of discovers what's really going on. Walter Duranty is played really well by Peter Sarsgaard, who really portrays Walter as this slimy, sleazy, opium addicted kind of nut who's just hobnobbing it up with the big shots in Moscow, and he doesn't care about the little people. He just wants to get paid and wants to live a luxurious life and that kind of thing, basically, is what's going on. And what's funny is that I didn't know that Walter Duranty was actually an opium addict and a real womanizer and kind of an addictive personality, kind of party whore. But it turns out that actually was true. At first, when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh man, they're just trying to like slime his character and make him look like some crackhead, blowing opios and that kind of thing. But it really was him in real life. So those character traits are actually, to my surprise, accurately portrayed and written into the story. But Basically, Gareth gets to Moscow, meets up with Walter Duranty, and says, "Hey, look, I don't buy it. What's going on here? How come the Soviets are able to go from total poverty to making all these factories and all these tractors and tanks and having all this industrialization? Where's the financing coming from? Where are the resources coming from?" And everyone keeps trying to tell Gareth, "Oh man, it's just the magic of socialism. It's so much more efficient, and the 5-year plan is just fantastic, and you can't doubt the party. Man, they really planned it well, and they're just beating capitalism at progress." So Gareth decides to kind of sneak away from his official handlers, because even back then, everyone's like confined to Moscow. You've got an official government handler that's keeping an eye on you, kind of like the North Korea thing does today. Gareth manages to sneak away, get on a train, and go to the Ukraine, and then he quickly discovers all the starvation that was happening in the Ukraine. He finds out that entire villages are empty and thousands of people are dying. People are dying of starvation, the cannibalism, the total lack of food, and then he finds out how that ties into the question of how Stalin is financing the industrialization and expansion of the Soviet economy. And what it is that Stalin was forcibly taking the grain from Ukraine that was being harvested and grown on the fields and selling it overseas, selling it to foreign countries, using those proceeds to enrich Moscow and to industrialize the country. And of course, the consequence of that is that millions of people starve to death. So Gareth finds out. He eventually blows the story wide open and gets the word out. Although there's a battle there in terms of the Walter versus Gareth thing, like whose narrative do you believe? This is before the days of cell phones and the internet, so it was basically just reporters writing stuff down and publishing it in newspapers. And then the question is, what's the public going to believe? But he really did help. He really did help break open the story about the Holodomor, about the genocide, and about the suffering of the Ukrainian people. Overall, but how was the movie, right? Like I said before, the directing was great, the pacing was great, the script was pretty well written. There's a lot of great one-liners in there, a lot of good sound bites. Walter Duranty says, at least once in the movie, he says, "You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs." Now, I had heard that phrase before several times in various places, and I thought, oh, okay, they just incorporated that into the script. But later on, when I did some research, apparently Walter was one of the earlier users of that phrase, and he really did use that phrase a lot in real life. The real person did, not just the movie character, when apologizing for the Soviet Union. He would say, "Of course it's not perfect. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, but look, they're building something better. They're building something bigger." Yeah, well, they built the biggest gulag, that's for sure. So the actors were all really competent in their roles. The script they had to work off of was strong. The scenes that they filmed were really great. In particular, the Ukrainian scenes with the trains and the empty villages and all the snow and the people waiting in line and the grain being taken off, carted off to Moscow. So it was really enjoyable, really engrossing. Really felt like it took me there to those times and into that whole story. I recommend it. You can find it if you've got one of those streaming services that you already pay for monthly. You should be able to find it for free. Otherwise, you can rent it or buy it pretty cheaply online. If you like thinking about the whole socialism versus capitalism thing, and you like the history of the USSR, you find it interesting, I think you'll really enjoy this movie. I think you'll find it interesting. So please check it out, and you'll be glad you did.